Hello YouTube. So the link to this video is on the description. If you can open a new tab and let the video play muted while you watch mine, would be very nice to give the original creator his views and some like too. If you like my video, please give a like, comment something, subscribe, and maybe recommend some video, something of the type the ape that can't be contained. Oh brother was stuck in a zoo and I guess he ran away, and here I am to see my brother prosper. Let's go.
Welcome to a behind-the-scenes VIP visit to the world's most famous zoo.
Oh, that's a voice.
The San Diego Zoo.
Is the world's most famous zoo? I did not know that. San Diego Zoo.
The San Diego Zoo, the world-famous wildlife haven
Tucano.
bursting with vibrant life. Nestled in the
Tucano.
Balboa Park,
In English,
this
I guess.
sprawling 100-acre zoo is home to thousands of rare and endangered creatures from across the globe.
Nice.
Pulling in millions of visitors every year, each exhibit offers an up-close
Papagaios.
glimpse into the
I don't
wonders
know how you guys call them in English. I forgot.
of the animal kingdom. With its lush tropical landscapes and immersive habitats, the San
it's
Diego
parrots.
Zoo really is
Yeah,
a
it's parrots.
full-on adventure. Well, on the 13th of February 1971, San Diego Zoo welcomed a new addition, an orangutan.
Ooh,
The
orangutan.
son of the
The
zoo-
chillest. I think orangutans are probably the chillest type of ape that exists,
Maggie and
and one of the most intelligent too.
Bob. It was decided he would be named Ken Allen after the
Ken
two
Allen.
zookeepers that would go on to care for him in his early years, Ken Willingham and Ben Allen.
Nice.
And this ape's time at San Diego Zoo would go on to be nothing shy of remarkable. So, after his birth, young Ken Allen...
Oh shit! My thing feel. Wait, let me pause the recording. Okay, I'm back.
didn't have the greatest start in life. It appeared that his mother was sadly failing to properly care for him, nearly accidentally smothering him.
What is
It
it?
appeared that his mother was sadly failing to properly care for him, nearly
Can I-
accidentally smothering him. So, the team at San Diego
well.
Zoo felt it was best for Ken's safety to separate from his mother and place him in his own cage. Well, as a young
Yeah, guys, some animals, when put in the cage, they start behaving in ways that you can't predict sometimes. That's a nice cake, I guess. It's a cake? I think it's a cake. I had made I think I remember that when I was making my model, I made one with green hair. kinda like this thing here. This kind of green. It's a little bit more to the head, I guess, but it was green. It was inspired by orangutan too.
Ken seemed
I
to
think
quickly acclimatise to his
it's my
enclosure
favorite
and
ape.
loved the company of his zookeepers and other humans alike. A very sociable, intelligent young ape.
Let's
and like
go.
all young playful apes, Ken was quite the troublemaker. But it was at nightfall when Ken would really shoot into action. One night, as the San Diego Zoo closed its doors and Ken's keepers were heading
Let's go,
home
brother.
after a long day's work, it seemed that Ken didn't particularly like the idea of being left confined to his small metal prison.
Fuck yeah.
While Ken had learned to unscrew the bolts of his cage to free himself, and once out, he'd just roam around his nursery.
Yeah,
So the next morning,
just to-
as staff
just to
arrived, there they
chilling.
found Ken playing with his toys as his cage sat dismantled behind him. Assuming there'd just been some sort of structural error with the cage framework, the zookeeper simply put it back together again, and as night drew in, they led Ken back into the newly assembled cage. Well,
And
Ken
he
had
did it
made
again?
note of this. So that,
You remember?
as their shift
Oh.
ended, and the zookeepers
Of course
left,
he
once
remember.
again, Ken started to unscrew the bolts of his cage, and simply messed about.
You are free, brother. I love to see it.
He loved the freedom, but this time, was different. Ken had learned that the morning was when the zookeepers would start their shifts and return, and he wasn't going to be caught out again. So after yet another night of freedom, as the sunlight slowly crept in through the window of his nursery, this time around, Ken climbed back into his cage and started re-securing the bolts as if nothing
And could
had
he do
happened.
it?
This way, when the keepers entered the nursery that morning, there they saw Ken sat well behaved
Nothing
in his cage as if
happened.
he'd been there the entire night. Well, Ken's master plan would go on for a few nights. He would unscrew the cage, play in the nursery, return to the cage, and then reassemble.
Didn't they have camera at the times? Well, maybe they did not look. If they have, you don't look every day, I guess.
Everything was going swimmingly, but there was one small
Something
thing that
happened.
Ken didn't account for. Eventually, the zookeeper started to notice that when they'd return in the morning, whilst Ken was sat content in his cage, his toys weren't in the places that the staff had left them the night before. So, with a hunch, that night, the keepers said their goodbyes to Ken and they pretended to leave. But rather than heading home, they sat quietly outside of Ken's nursery and waited. And after a while, as they expected, they started to hear noises. So they abruptly burst through the door, and there they saw Ken, cage dismantled, playing with his toys. So the jig was up.
Bro just wants to play with his toys, and they don't let him.
Ken was placed into a new, much sturdier cage, and that put a stop to his late night antics once and for all. But trust me when I say, this was merely the beginning. When it came to Ken Allen, things for San Diego Zoo would get far, far worse.
But first, add time, okay. Add to War Thunder. I never played. I don't think I will ever play.
7th part of the night. Right, Mick, I'm off, mate. I'll be back at 8 AM tomorrow. Who the monetized video are you? Listen, this is very important. We have to hurry. You are Dave, right? Yeah. Listen to me, Dave. I have a job for you. Oh, no, you don't, mate. I don't do jobs. I'm unemployed. Just listen to me, Dave. I've been sent by my higher-ups, and you've been recruited to perform ad reads from now on. Here, take this device. Now, this thing on your wrist allows you to time travel to any point in history. But your first mission is you must go throughout time and spread the word of War Thunder, the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is now available on PC and consoles for free. Now go!
Ay, my eyes.
Hey, you, what are you doing? We're building the pyramids of Giza, mate. Well, us and those lot over there. Mate, that sounds proper boring. Have a spin on this. War Thunder. You can take command of over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes, armoured cars to fighter jets,
This ad is kinda
main
long.
battle tanks of today. Well, my today, that is. You guys don't even know what a tank is yet. I think you find we do, mate. Those lot over there told us what they are.
This War Thunder
What
game
the
is amazing.
fuck?
The incredible detailed vehicles, the realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you
2
right in
minutes
the
of
middle of the
ads.
most powerful war
Let me
machine.
put
Let's
2
set
X.
everything off. We're joining War Thunder from now on. The first competitor, Sergius, the destroyer of men, and the second competitor, Dave, the destroyer of his own liver. I'm going to turn you to mush, and there's nothing you can say to stop me. I mean, if you've tried War Thunder, join a worldwide community of over 7 million players in an epic PvP match. Delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder.
War
With unmatched
Thunder.
content to discover. There's simply no game better suited for fans of military history. Oh, fair enough. Next up, let's welcome John, Paul, Ringo, George, and Dave, the Beatles. So, chaps, what would you say is your favourite part of the music-making process? Well, I mean, you know, it's definitely the creativity of it all for me.
Do they pay to each minute or just for the ad?
Historical markings and decorations for all types of vehicles, including community-created ones.
This is one small step.
You
for
can't
man.
make ads too
You can
big.
play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation,
I
and
guess.
Xbox. Use the link in the description or in the pinned comment to
What
sign
do
up.
I know?
Replays all over
I never
the
got
place.
that.
You'll also receive a massive bonus pack on PC or console that includes multiple premium vehicles, the
I
exclusive
had,
vehicle decorated the Eagle and Vela, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of a premium account. All
Contract.
available for a limited time only, so don't miss it. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm off to a free pint, so back to the video.
Let's go.
So skip forward a few years, and the zookeepers felt it was finally time
1985.
to be shown off to the public. And he was placed into the Heart of the Zoo exhibit that had opened just 3 years prior. But when Ken first moved in, he wasted no time in turning his hand to mischief. When a film crew turned up to document the gorilla enclosure next door, Ken decided it'd be a good idea to hurl rocks at them. And then when he ran out of rocks, he used his own shit. And keepers would also report seeing Ken fashioning branches into DIY ladders that he would then thump into the ground with his own fist, climb up to the top, and then climb all the way back down. Now, it's important to note that Ken wasn't alone in this enclosure.
Bro, you're
Keepers
just
decided that
exploring.
maybe it was best that he had some company this time around. So they placed him in an
Ooh.
enclosure with a bunch
A
of
girlfriend.
other orangutans. So there was
Oh,
a
no.
number of female
Ooh.
orangutans, Ken, and one other male named Otis. Now, if you know the first thing about the animal kingdom, 2 males and a bunch of females doesn't usually end too well.
Yeah, they're gonna fight to see who's the boss.
Despise Otis. I'm talking cold-blooded hatred, resulting in numerous feuds.
No, man, we have to stick together. Apes strong together. But I understand. If there is Gales.
Zookeeper's idea of giving Ken some company had seemingly backfired, so they cut their losses and moved Ken into his own enclosure. So there he was, alone once again. Now let's have a think, shall we? Last time Ken was alone, what did he do? That's right, baby. He started planning his next escape. So on the 13th of June, 1985, a 14-year-old Ken Allen managed to climb up the wall of his enclosure and got out. Now, what exactly did Ken do after his valiant escape? Well, he very confidently just strolled around the zoo amongst visitors, minding his own business, observing the other animals. Oh, look at the elephant. Wow,
Bro,
look at that giraffe. He wasn't
let's
aggressive
run to
or
shoot.
agitated. In fact, Ken loved the attention. Well, this escapade went on until the zookeepers were made aware of Ken's escape. Now, they knew that if Ken was to attack anybody, they would be forced to put him down.
Yeah.
Because of his strength, because he is a wild animal, the potential is there to do harm, to hurt somebody badly.
So slightly panicked, they hesitantly approached Ken, but he caused no trouble at all. And then they quickly led him back to
Bro,
his
just want
enclosure,
to
which he
walk around
Now, whilst
and
Ken Allen
relax.
was chill, enjoying his day spent roaming the zoo, the same couldn't be said for the zoo's staff. They were having a meltdown. They knew if news of Ken Allen's escape went public,
Yeah.
they would have a PR disaster on
People
their
would make
hands.
a problem
But of course,
out of
They
it.
have no control.
Which makes
over
sense
it.
because
I mean, there
with
was
his
no
strength,
orangutan walking
if
amongst
he
members of
wanted
the
to,
public. That
if he wanted to hurt someone, he could make it happen. But Ken's chill, bro. He probably wanted to do. Probably.
just turned heads. So as the news broke, the staff at the San Diego Zoo prepared for the worst. But rather than the expected PR disaster, Ken Allen became somewhat of a local hero.
Ooh,
and
nice.
it actually worked in the zoo's favour. With
That's
everyone
what I
reading the
like
news
to
about
see.
it, people just had to see for themselves.
My
and the
monkey
zoo
brothers
attendance
thriving.
skyrocketed.
My ape
Well, despite the media
pals.
behind the scenes, San Diego Zoo were doing all they could to prevent another escape. Sure, the attention was great, but one instance of an escaped ape was enough for them. Zoo officials decided they needed to step up security of Ken's pen, so they installed a moat around the perimeter of his enclosure and installed a
that's making it difficult.
250-foot wall. This was bound to stop Ken in his tracks, and thankfully, it worked. Crisis averted. The security measures successfully contained Ken Allen.
How
For
is
all
gonna
of a
do
few
it?
weeks, that is. Because on the 29th of July, 1985, Ken managed to escape again. He somehow made his way over the moat, and
What
just like his
the hell?
last escape, the 250-pound orangutan effortlessly scaled
I
his
don't know how
enclosure
much is 250 pounds. How much is that in kilos? On kilogram?
wall. And yet again, he did the same, just casually strolling around the zoo amongst visitors, even posing for selfies.
Ooh,
but this
nice.
time, there was one more thing Ken wanted to do on his day trip. So as the zookeepers were once again made aware of Ken's escape, they frantically ran out to the zoo for a second time to capture Ken. And there they found him, stood over an enclosure. But this time, he wasn't looking at the pretty elephants.
Oh.
There Ken was, picking up rocks and pelting them at none other than Otis.
Bro.
Ken's
Bro really hated him. What the fuck? Come on, Ken. We have to stick together, brother.
and sworn enemy. Well, this second escape had only escalated the media hype around Ken. The already packed San Diego Zoo had more and more visitors each day, all eager to
Bro
see Ken
really
Allen,
hated him.
ape that could not be contained. But yet again, as for the staff at San Diego Zoo, whilst thankful for the increase in ticket sales, they simply could not let this happen again. 2 escapes was already far too many. Things were really getting silly now. Every effort the zoo
Better to be careful.
to try and
So-
halt Ken's escapes was failing. They needed to really
Because even if he don't want, he can by mistake hurt someone, and then the problem, the responsibility would be on the zookeepers and not on the animal, you know. So let me refresh this shot. Okay, refresh. What? Refresh. Anyway.
step things up this time around. So for the time being, they moved Ken into an indoor pen that reportedly had a black and white television
indoor?
that featured just one channel. So as Ken sat and watched TV, the staff started to draft a plan to further beef up Ken's main enclosure and increase security, fortify the place properly. So as the staff gathered around and started pitching ideas, meanwhile, outside of zoo grounds, after the media had caught wind of the second escape, things had gotten bonkers. Ken Allen had become somewhat of an icon.
Nice.
On t-shirts started popping up all over the place.
Free my bro.
Bumper stickers appeering on cars all over San Diego.
Free my brother.
A group of pensioners formed a Ken Allen fan club, aptly named the Orang Gang, complete with a monthly newsletter. And maybe the strangest outcome of Ken's fame, a San Diego-based psychiatrist named Dennis Gersten released a single, The Ballad of Ken Allen. Yeah, shit was getting weird.
Okay,
Headlines
Nella.
started referring to Ken Allen as Harry Houdini. A
Harry
name
Houdini?
that fit him perfectly.
Who's that?
So
I don't
back
know.
at the zoo,
Probably
with
someone
all
that
eyes on them,
ran away from
staff
prisons.
started their efforts to beef up Ken's main enclosure once and for all. So with the master plan finished, they started by surrounding the wall with a powerful electric fence. Then they hired a pair of professional rock climbers to try and scale the enclosure wall so staff could see.
You can't compare humans rocking climbers. You can't compare humans climbers with the fucking apes and monkeys climbers. It's a whole another level, bro. You can't compare. You can't get. Only if you return to Monkey. Do you hear me? Return to Monkey.
Count the foot and handholds and patch over them, making a chance of a route to the top virtually impossible.
Making the walls smoother, straight up and down,
Bro.
taking all the little bumps and ridges
How he's
out of the
gonna
wall.
run?
You could
He
possibly
probably
get a
gonna
handhold on.
Also,
He probably gonna run away again. It is still 10 minutes of video, so
the key
let's
to
see
the
how
plot
he
is
do
that
it.
Ken would only really ever attempt to escape when he was in an enclosure alone. And of course, when they attempted to put him in an enclosure with other orangutans, the only real issue was the fact that there was another male, Otis. So, zookeepers decided that the best course of action would be to introduce some female orangutans into the
now he got that
enclosure
in.
and no other males, in the hopes that the company might calm him down. So with the big security renovations finally complete, they decided it was time to free Ken from his indoor prison. He'd watched enough black and white TV, and they released him into the newly upgraded enclosure.
Let's go,
But
Ken.
that wasn't all the staff had up their sleeve. This
Ooh,
time, they
nice.
decided
I want
it was
one.
best that they
I want
monitor
one of this.
see what he got up to, learn his
Wooden
habits,
things.
see if he was acting
With
fishy.
orangutan.
But this is Ken Allen we're talking about. This is one.
I should make one model with green with orange hair.
Smart orangutan. He knew
Inspired
that when he
by
saw
Ken
humans
Allen.
dressed in zoo uniform, he couldn't act out or pull any wise moves, as he knew they were watching. But this time,
Ooh.
the staff were one step ahead of Ken. So to get round this, they would disguise themselves in normal, casual clothing, blue jeans, Hawaiian shirts, sunglasses, as if they were just regular old bystanders visiting the zoo. That way, they could watch Ken and he'd have no idea they were members of staff. A tactic that the zoo coined guerrilla tactics. Okay, 1 gold star for that one,
Bro.
San Diego Zoo. I'll give it to you. So how did it all go? Well,
The game-
their
Ken
plan
Allen
worked. Ken
Files.
didn't try to escape. So there Ken was,
Bro, just
busy
chilling.
not escaping, relaxing, sitting around. Oh, he has a crowbar. It
Just
seemed that Ken had
biding
discovered the tool
his
when it had
time.
been seemingly left behind by a construction worker. Not particularly wanting to approach a crowbar-wielding orangutan.
Yeah,
the
better
zookeepers
not to risk
watched
it.
over helplessly. But to their relief, Ken threw it aside, landing at the feet of fellow orangutan, Vicky. Now, knowing she was far calmer than Ken, the keepers weren't too worried about her, until that is, they heard a large crunch, and Vicky had used the crowbar to try and pry open his. They heard a large crunch, and Vicky had used the crowbar to try and
They just to let them have the crowbar. Didn't they try to take it away? Or maybe it's in the same day.
pry open the glass of the enclosure window in an attempt to free herself and Ken. That's right, Ken had seemingly upped his intelligence level and was training other orangutans to aid him in his escapes.
Pretty clever, as
strong
if they learned from
together.
the master himself.
There
Let's
must
fucking
be
go.
some kind of orangutan communication going on here.
Thankfully, for zoo staff, this time around,
That's a nice
they caught Ken and
mustache.
Vicky almost instantly before they made it out to the public and then re-secured the window. So after making sure all the loose tools were secure and feeding the construction worker to the alligators, it seemed that Ken, for the most part, was behaving
Just
himself.
chilling.
They did catch him one time, managing to scale the wall, despite the rock climber's best efforts, but when he eventually reached the electric
I
fence...
said, you can't compare humans, hockey climbers, with a ape.
got quite the zap and quickly made his way back down. The San Diego Zoo had outdone themselves. Finally, all the work the staff had put in had
That's the
seemingly
end?
worked to
I
keep
think
Ken
maybe-
Allen at bay. Ken started
Maybe
to
he
settle down,
did
and the
it
media
one
started to
more
report that he'd
time.
become somewhat of a family man, and it looked as if his escapes had finally been put to rest. But it seemed that Ken was simply buying his time. Because
had
2 years
one
later,
more in
the
him.
pump that fueled the moat around
2
Ken's
years,
enclosure had
biding
conveniently
his time.
clogged, drying up the moat completely. And this allowed for a clear and easy path to the wall. Ken then sat patiently and waited for the moment that the power to the electric fence was shut off
What?
for maintenance. How he knew this is still
Yeah.
a mystery.
How
But with the time
how
to
the
be
fuck?
fair,
How would he know?
capitalized, making a bolt for it. And once again,
Maybe it
after
was
his
maybe it
2-year
was
hiatus,
maybe it was just chance that at the time that he saw his chance to run away again, they
he'd come out of
They
retirement,
turned it off
and it
the
was like he
electricity.
never stopped. Back to his old ways, he strolled around the zoo, taking photo after photo.
Did he go to
Everyone
Oats
raving
again?
that they had seen Ken Allen, hairy Houdini, the ape that could not be contained. But this time around, when he saw the guards approaching in the distance, Ken
ran.
wasn't as calm as he was during his other escapes. He made a bolt for the lion enclosure, dodging and weaving, making the most of his freedom, crowds cheering as he sprinted. He was really pushing the boat out this time. This was the furthest away Ken had ever
Holy
been
shit.
from his enclosure. Fearing that Ken was going to climb into the lion enclosure and be their next meal, staff were hot on his heels, and after 3 long hours, he was eventually cornered
3
by
hours?
gun-wielding zookeepers
What the
and
fuck?
led back to his enclosure. Luckily, the zookeepers knew that the only
3
reason the
hours?
escape was possible was due to the moat drying up and the power shutting off, and once repaired,
Yeah.
fortifications that had worked for 2 years would still be up to scratch. But while secure, what the keepers had underestimated once more was the
What?
fact that Ken had roommates. Things had been going great, but we all know how things go when you surround Ken with female orangutans. Ken isn't exactly the best influence on the ladies. But
He's
it wasn't
teaching
Ken
them to
this time.
run.
One day before the zoo opening time, Jane and Kumang had found a 5-foot long handled squeegee that a cleaner had accidentally left in the enclosure. And inspired by Ken,
Ooh.
the two somehow used it to climb up the wall
What the f-
and hop out.
Bro.
Jane apparently wandered into an employee-only lounge area, finished off some of their sodas, and was found roaming around near the flamingos, where she had to be tranquilized and returned to her enclosure. And thankfully, Kumang willingly returned. But while she was the tame ape this time around, it seems that
What the heck is
Kumang
this?
wanted her own chapter in the adventure book. She managed to escape 2 additional times by shortening the electric fence wires with a twig. The first time, she was found sat playing in a garden bed where she was
nice.
tranquilized. Then the second time, she was sat outside the Monke enclosure, and when approached by staff, she climbed on top of the bird sanctuary where she was tranquilized again. In fact, Kumang's mischief actually got the group put in solitary confinement once more, whilst the keepers made the wiring system more complex, upgraded the doors, and went around with an electromagnet to make sure there was nothing they could use to aid an escape. So even
Okay.
though Ken was in retirement, he was still seemingly costing the zoo money through his students. At this point, the zoo had reportedly spent a whopping $45,000
Ken
on security over the course of the escapes. As for Ken himself, as years passed, it seems that the
Got
escapes at
old,
San Diego Zoo
got
really had finally come to an end this time.
tired.
Ken was living a simple life
Oh.
in his enclosure, sat relaxing, eating,
Just to
and
relax.
flipping off children that walked by. Ken settled down for years to come. He had finally decided to behave himself.
Just
and
settle
stay
down.
put in his enclosure. He had truly given up on his old ways. Well, in the winter of 2000, the zookeepers noticed that Ken was acting out of the ordinary. He was moving erratically and seemed uncomfortable, so the staff
You know,
sent him in
sick?
for a visit with the zoo doctor. Ken was diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. Now, at first, doctors weren't too
Cancer?
worried, as Ken was still young and fit and would most likely be able to fight off the disease. But sadly, as time went on, Ken's condition
man.
deteriorated, and the cancer had become more
My
aggressive.
man Ken.
Cancer that was now terminal. So the
We will
zookeeper
always be
decided that rather
remembered.
than letting Ken suffer at the age of 29, on December 1st, 2000, Ken Allen was euthanized.
Options for chemotherapy were explored, but at this time, the therapy was mainly geared towards making Kenny as comfortable as possible.
His condition had worsened over the last several days. Ken brought great joy to the San Diego Zoo for over 29 years. The loss of this type of animal is a great loss to our organization.
Of course.
It's a sad day at the San Diego Zoo. At 11:05 today, Ken Allen was put down.
The Orangang published a 2-page spread
My
as a
boy
tribute to Ken and hosted
Kenny.
a candlelit vigil for him, stating he would have done the same for us. To this day, a plaque sits in San Diego Zoo. In Ken,
Ken Allen, born in orangutan, was born and raised here at the San Diego Zoo. He became internationally famous in the mid-80s for escaping his closure. Let's fucking go, Kenny.
Allen's blood. So there you go. The story of Ken Allen's numerous escapes from the San Diego Zoo. $45,000, t-shirts, bumper stickers, a fan club, a single, and a hell of a tale. I've made sure to link to the main sources that help to tell this story below, if you want to read into it some more. And shout out to Count Dankula,
Ooh.
who covered this story a while back with a
Nice.
hilarious retelling in his Absolute Mad Lad series, which actually led me to make this video and get Ken's story out there to more people. He also mentions in that video, made 4 years ago
Holy
now,
shit.
that orangutans are indeed an endangered species.
They are?
Orangutans are very smart and very gentle
I
natured
think they
creatures, but the World Wildlife Fund has
They are
classed them.
probably the, if not the smartest, one of the smartest apes, and they are very chill. But not all the time. You know, a wild animal can act out sometimes, even if the nature is to be chill. They can be made uncomfortable by the situations and maybe do something. Have you ever seen that video of the guy getting his leg cowed by a orangutan?
Them as critically endangered.
And who would have guessed, 4 years later, nothing has changed. The steep decline in the number of orangutans in the wild means they are indeed still an endangered species, with an estimated total of around 50,000 to 65,000
65,000.
remaining in the wild. 2,000 to 3,000 orangutans are killed every year. And if it continues at that rate, some experts predict that within 50 years,
Bro.
there will be no orangutans left in the wild. So I've made sure to include a few links below.
No,
for some
it's
charities.
sad.
The Orangutan Project.
My
which
brothers
is
are
adopted
dying
the
all over
Orangutan
the world.
Foundation that do great work in protecting the tropical habitats that many wild orangutans call home, and orangutan.com, which is an all-round great resource to see what you can do to help, as well as the numerous charities helping to save
Nice.
orangutans.
Everything
from
is on the
extinction. I've made a
description
personal
of this
donation
video,
myself,
guys.
and if you have any spare money left around, why not go and give it to some of these charities?
When
I'd
I
like to
post
dedicate
it,
this
I'll
video to
probably
Ken Allen.
try to put on
Good
my-
on you, mate. And to all of you that have made it
it
this far in the
works.
video, thank you ever so much. And of course, thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring the video and making it all possible. You can give it a try for free on PC, PlayStation or Xbox by using the link in the description or in the pinned comment. New and returning
Okay.
players that haven't played in 6
Walk
months
down
will receive
the
that big bonus pack mentioned earlier in the video featuring premium vehicles and much more
It's
across
ending.
all platforms. And it's
I
all
ought
only
to give
available
you a
for a
like.
limited time only.
The
So get them
link
while you can.
is on the
And with all of
description,
that
guys.
said, goodbye.
Okay, that was the video. Made it to our brother Ken Allen. Let's go. If you liked this video, please give a like, comment something, and subscribe. Bye bye.